Welcome to the Inside Scoop.
Meet our special client, Rebecca Ditore.
Hi, everyone.
Thanks for being here.
Thanks for being
Thank
here.
you. Gosh.
It's a lot, but it's a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah,
It's a lot.
It was a lot.
Carrying it back.
Yeah, right? And we are so in awe of you and your, not only your strength to make it through something that is beyond comprehensible for anyone who hasn't gone through it, but your eloquence at finding the words and then wrangling those words to get them down on paper to both be cathartic for you, but also to share with others and help them through their journeys. Do you want to tell us a little bit? I mean, first, let's start from the beginning, I guess, right?
Yep, sure.
So we met through Jeff.
Yes.
So we helped Jeff and his family find their home, and they live nearby and referred us to you. And do you want to tell us a little bit about the townhouse and the listing your house and helping you find the next house?
Yeah. So I remember you, like, however long ago Jeff moved into that house in Schwenksville, walking through the house with you and his family. So when I was looking for a realtor in, I guess, late 2020, I asked Jeff, and yes, he referred me to you. I had just had my second son in October of 2020. My older son was 1, and when I reached out, and we wanted to move from our townhouse to have a backyard, some space for a swing set.
He had just turned 1 because I remember when we came to the house, you had birthday
He had just
decorations.
Yeah, so January of 2021, he had just turned 2. Dante had just turned 2.
Oh, okay.
Dominic was a couple months old.
Sure.
So we were looking around for a house now that Dante was running around more, and we wanted more space and had this, idea that we were going to have a third child eventually, and just wanted to get more space for all of that. So we reached out. We, after looking at several houses and plots and builders and neighborhoods coming, we found a plot of land just right around the corner. New construction, right around the corner from the townhouse we were in Lansdale. We loved the area, wanted to stay in that area. So we started working with the builder, went through the whole process of picking things out from floors and cabinets in the showroom. I remember
knobs and tile and
everything.
Yes.
I remember
navigating the whole fence thing and
stormwater management.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I never want to talk about that ever again. I remember being in the showroom, like, with the boys, like Dante running around or holding Dominic, and it was like everything. It was perfect. We loved it. It was our dream home. We were so excited, and once we started with that process, I think we had picked everything out and locked everything in and put down the deposit and all of that, and in a contract. My husband Mike started having, like, these weird symptoms. So he started having weakness in his left hand, and we were like, oh, it's probably carpal tunnel or something. He was, like, very into exercise, would always get up early working out in our garage. But that quickly turned into a diagnosis of terminal brain cancer.
I remember the phone call. I don't know if you do.
So.
Yep.
So we were under contract on your townhouse. We had multiple offers, and so we had a buyer under contract, and we were under contract on your new construction. And I very vividly remember sitting in my office when you called and told us. And it was just one of those moments where you go, am I being pranked? This can't be real.
Yeah.
Because
sure, I felt that way for you too.
How old were you? 30? 28?
29.
29.
Yeah,
right,
29
years old. So it was impossible to even comprehend.
Yeah.
I mean, I think when you called, he had just started having some of these symptoms, and you weren't really sure what it was, but
MS,
you knew it was something. Right. That's right.
Yes, we were in the hospital. I remember calling you because I'm thinking as you're talking. So I remember all that and keeping you guys in the loop with, like, what we were experiencing, just because we had become friends at that point, and we were telling you. But I remember sitting at my kitchen table, and I was thinking about this all night last night, that when we got that diagnosis, and then I think it was like the elephant in the room, like, for a while. We kept going for a little bit, but Mike and I both knew, like, we can't do this.
Yeah.
No.
And then finally, like, had the courage to voice it to each other. And I remember sitting at my kitchen table with my dad, and I was, like, hysterical. And I remember I tried to call you to tell you that we needed to
get
get
out.
out of it.
Yeah.
And he ended up talking to you and telling
Right.
you, because I was like, I can't even get the
right.
words out when it was
Right.
actually
Yeah.
time to
And I
pull
couldn't
out.
believe it. Right. And I will say that I feel like I'm so sorry all of this happened, but I'm so glad that we were there to help, because no one was ready to go to war
Oh yeah.
to get you out of what you needed to get you out of.
Yeah.
And even the
than
buyer's
us.
agent on the original buyer of your house, I mean, he was actually very
Oh, he was amazing,
and understood
and truthfully, so was the builder. After
Yeah.
we did need to go through some hoops just to make sure that everybody had all the documentation,
Sure.
which we were able to get from Mike's employer.
Yeah.
But everybody really understood, because this was just so apocalyptic.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I don't mean
Well,
to be
for all of us that knew him, yeah, of course.
it was so unbelievable. But at the time, though, it was very hopeful. There was still, we'll revisit this. We'll get it under control. We'll figure out what we're going to do, and then we'll get it under control. Right?
Yeah.
That was the feeling.
We certainly had hope at the time. I mean, we had no choice but to be hopeful. Like, we had 2 little ones.
Yeah.
But I mean, I couldn't even, again, get the words out to tell you that I needed to get out of the house, let alone go through any emotions to deal with any of the extras of that, like having deal with the people who had bought my house or the builder. Like, there was, I couldn't even, I didn't even know what my next step was. Like, I could hardly get out of bed and take care of my kids, let alone like deal with this whole thing. So it was like a huge weight off my shoulders to like trust that with this phone call, you guys were just going to take care of it.
I'm so glad.
Yeah.
because
I mean,
when something
truly.
happens to a friend, there's so little that you can do. It feels very helpless. You don't have the right words. You don't know what to do. You don't know how to help. So we were able to help, and we would have done anything. We would have done anything.
Yeah.
It was a huge help, and we appreciated it so much. And I remember thinking, like, wondering, like, I wonder, like, how it went, like, when they called the builder. And I remember you just calling and being like, we're good. Like, it's all, it's
don't
taken
worry
care of.
about
Like,
it.
don't worry about it. And I was like, wow. Like, it was honestly such a huge help, truly.
I'm so glad. I'm really glad. We could do something, anything.
So then,
yeah.
oh, sorry, no.
No,
And then,
please.
so then we figured out that being close to Mike's mom and dad.
Right. So things progressed.
Yeah,
things progressed. And again, I have to say, you were relentless in finding new doctors, trials, experimental stuff. You were relentless. Everybody who knew you was feeding off of that relentlessness, and we were all looking for who do we know and where do we know, right?
Yep.
Everybody you knew.
Yeah.
Including the other agents. Like the other agents, I mean, everybody got on board, and it was in spite of all of that, in spite of all of your fighting, things progressed in a direction that required you to be near to family, right?
Yeah. So Mike had gone through, after that diagnosis, he was going through treatment. We were driving to Jefferson downtown every day for 6 weeks, and his dad would drive from Horsham to Lansdale to take him to the city most of those days because I was with the kids. And we just realized as it became so difficult, and even during treatment, like, you get worse before you see any improvement. So it was so hard, and we saw how valuable our family was and how much we really needed them.
Sure.
And we still wanted this space. Like, we still wanted the kids to be able to run around outside. Like, we still wanted that.
None of that changed, yeah.
None of that changed. We didn't want to, like, completely stop our life. We just knew that house, it wasn't realistic for us to live there. Mike was going to be out of work, and it was just, again, too far. Like, it didn't help us in any way.
Right.
So we started looking closer to Mike's parents, and actually I had heard, so Mike's father has a landscaping business, and he, in his neighborhood and the neighborhood next to it, he does business for all of them. So he was talking to a neighbor one day, and they mentioned, like, oh, I need you to do work for us. Like, we're going to be putting our house up soon. And he told us, and I was like, I called you guys right up, and I was like, what do we do? Yeah. Like, we need to get this house. Like, I can walk to my in-laws' house It has everything we need. And I was like, what do we need to do? Please, make this happen.
Yeah.
And you did. I mean,
So we reached out to them.
Yeah, we reached out to them and set up a Zoom. I'll never forget.
Because
They
it
were
was
in their kitchen.
mid-pandemic.
Yeah, mid-pandemic. And it just worked out. And it was perfect for you guys. You know, the size, the yard, everything. And
it worked out for them, too.
It did.
In that they didn't have to get their house super show ready.
right. It never went on the market.
Yeah,
This
right.
was
Never
before
went on
it
the
ever went on
market.
the market.
Right.
Right. They didn't have to do any of the pre-listing stuff. They were able to you were flexible in your closing date and all those kinds of things. And of course they were sympathetic to everything you were going through. But
Yeah.
but at the same time it was a business transaction for them.
Sure.
And so it really was a win-win.
Yeah.
them.
I mean,
Yeah,
they had to
everybody.
benefit from it to not, there was a risk, right?
Yeah,
that's
for
right.
them not to put
Totally.
it on the market. So,
yeah.
but that was the most perfect scenario because as things progressed even more, Mike was doing well for a little while, really, really well, actually. He was on an experimental treatment, like you said, and he was doing so well that doctors were like, it looks, because his tumors were inoperable.
Yeah.
But at a point, the doctors were saying to us, it looks like he had them completely removed. This treatment was
I remember you telling us
amazing.
that. Yeah.
We couldn't believe it. We had so much hope when we got those scans, and this was early 2022, I think at this point.
Yeah.
We went on a trip to Disney
Yeah,
with
I
our
remember.
family. He was
Right.
doing really, really well. And then very soon after that, just started having these symptoms again,
Vision, right?
Vision,
Yeah.
hearing, different symptoms. So he had a nystagmus, which was a wiggle. When he would move his eye would wiggle. And we were like, oh, maybe it's a weird side effect. Or,
Right.
Right.
So you try to think of something positive about everything that would come up, oh, it's probably this medication or this medication. And we're constantly in the hospital and talking to doctors, and but it progressed and progressed, and he ended up having difficulty seeing. He had double vision. He started having difficulty hearing, and then walking, and every major function. And then so obviously something was very wrong. And this was right around this time. It was
That
in
year.
the spring.
Yeah.
Everything always, both times progressed in the spring. So went to the hospital after scans and all that. He had a new growth in his brainstem, which, from what I understand from the doctors, is a very small area. So any growth can do significant damage in that area. So anyway, at this point, he was he needed help with everything.
Right.
So being that close to family,
huge,
my
yeah.
in-laws were over, my dad they were over every single day. My mother-in-law would come over at 7 a.m., help me with the boys and Mike all day. My dad would come over around 3 or 4, occupy the boys so that Mike could have some of my undivided attention.
Yeah.
And then
I think it's important to note that you guys had been together since 8th grade.
Yeah.
Yes.
We didn't-
That is
yeah. Which I'm sure you
unbelievable.
highlight in the book, right?
absolutely,
Yeah. You talk about.
And it is a key element to, not to diminish anybody else's loss, but you had a history. Even as young as you guys were, your history was rooted,
Yeah.
really rooted. And so it was important that you guys had some alone time.
Yeah, I mean, we grew up together, and I talk about this in the book too. That I didn't even I don't remember who I was before Mike. We were inseparable from eighth grade. We broke up for a month in college. It was the most devastating time at that time. So yeah, I didn't know anything. Mike and Becca, that was my identity.
Yeah.
Right.
So as he progressed, I'm losing parts of him as we go.
Right.
And and I was saying his dad would come over every night, stay the night. So anyway, my point is it was so important to be that close to family, because there were times where I one morning I had to call an ambulance, and his mom was luckily
there.
right there.
Yeah.
Right.
And what would I have done if I was 25 minutes away? I couldn't send him. He wasn't cognitively there to be sent. So anyway,
Not having
it was
to go
just,
through that alone, and
Yes, it
especially
was-
with the boys there. Yeah.
the neighbors knew us and were super supportive. So that was just the best thing that could have happened in that scenario.
Yep.
At that time, getting into that house.
Yeah. And,
So that fall
right, that fall.
is when Mike.
So
Yeah, things got
over
worse.
that summer, I mean, honestly, we created some really beautiful memories in that house. Like,
All right. So spring of 2022, you're home, the boys, Mike's parents are there, your dad, everybody's chipping in to help you. And, you know, you're trying to create these memories, you know, share a little bit about that in the house for us.
yeah, I mean, I loved that house. We had our worst memories in that house and our best memories in that house. I mean, there was, I that entire spring, summer, we were outside. We had a pool right down the street we'd walk to, always playing on the swing set and the deck. There was, so we had Christmas at the end of 2021, obviously,
Right.
and then, but Mike was really out of it for that Christmas. He was actually like doing well, but in that day he was having a lot of side effects and just not really engaged. But in the summer, so we went through spring, we're out spending a lot of time outside, had a great times, made a ton of memories. As summer started, we had to look to hospice, and our hospice nurse connected us to a nonprofit called the Breathing Room Foundation, which is funny because now I work for them,
Yes.
which is incredible. And so one day my dad was outside with the boys, and we were playing and chasing them around, and this is July, and my dad goes, "Why don't we put up a Christmas tree? Christmas in July, like why not?
Yeah.
There's so much sadness, like maybe the kids will get a kick out of it." And I was like, "Yeah, absolutely. I love Christmas. Let's do it." So I was like, "Let's go inside. Like let's literally go get the Christmas
Let's
tree
do
from
it
the
right
basement."
now.
And we did it right away.
Yeah.
And the hospice nurse saw it the next day and connected with the breathing room. And this little like nod to Christmas in July, just putting the tree up, letting the boys decorate, turned into like a full-blown Christmas like do-over.
Celebration, yeah.
And I mean, at this point, we knew this was our last opportunity for this. Like, he
Right.
wasn't going to be here for Christmas of 2022. So they brought us a ton of gifts. The boys had their Christmas jammies. We left cookies outside. We did all of it.
Right.
And Mike was doing well enough to be present for it.
Yeah.
Like, he still was unwell. Like, he was having a lot of trouble, but he knew what was going on still, because shortly after that, he started losing that cognition. But we took pictures. Like, it was
Yeah.
a really beautiful memory that I will never forget.
Of course.
And
Neither will we.
Yeah, I mean, I see it like in our family room. My in-laws there, the tree up, them opening presents, the bikes, like everything, and
Right.
it was wonderful.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a really special memory.
That's
Homes
awesome.
are not, for some people, and sometimes they're just four walls. And I think sometimes we put too much power on those four walls. But sometimes, those homes, like you said, hold everything inside of them.
Yeah.
But we're able to take those with us, right?
Yeah.
You've moved since then, right? And you are able to take those beautiful memories with you from that home, from those walls that contained those things, but those aren't lost by moving. Would
No.
you agree?
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, I mean, I have pictures from that experience in my current home. Like, we talk about these things. We'll always carry those memories with us wherever we live.
Right. So Mike passes away in the fall of 2022.
Yeah, in September 2022, he died. And honestly, when we moved into this home, I thought I was going to be there forever. I was like, I'm never, ever moving again.
Right.
Like, this is it. But I also didn't expect to be there such a short amount of time, for his illness to be such a short amount of time. We thought, we'd be there long enough for the kids to be established in school. And then at that point, I was like, we're gonna stay. But it progressed so quickly. And I had conversations with Mike about it, and he would tell me, like, you should move. And I was like, I'm not moving. Like, stop telling me that. He's like, I think you need to move. Like, there's too much in this house. And he was like encouraging me to like move.
How amazing to have that insight for him to have that insight in the middle of all of this. I mean, first of all, that's the deepest kind of love. He was thinking about you, but that's amazing. I didn't know that.
Yeah. And I would get mad at him sometimes, and I'm like, just stop putting that in my head, because I'm not moving. Like, we
Yeah.
love this house. But like after he passed and I had time to like look back. I mean, you process this during his whole illness, right? Like he died, but I knew when we got that diagnosis and we pulled out of the first house, like I knew what was in my future. I didn't exactly know when, but like you start grieving all of that. And so I had time to think about this. And then
I'm going to interrupt only because I would love for you to touch on, that brings up the fact that you were blogging. Kind of, in order to not have to make a million phone calls, you were blogging on Caring Bridge originally.
It was on
another,
Wix. But Caring Bridge, I didn't even know of it
similar.
at the time.
What was the website?
It's through Wix is like the
okay. So you were blogging, and when I say that these blogs were moving,
unbelievable.
They were, first of all,
I looked forward to all of them.
Me too.
And
we would say, the new one. And because they were detailed, we felt like we understood enough. It wasn't, you weren't oversharing intimate details and things like that, but we felt like we were really understanding what was going on. And again, I go back to what I said in the very beginning. Your writing, the quality of the writing was astounding. Separate from what you were writing. It was, like I said, again, it was sad and moving, and we were connected in this way. And so, but at the same time, we would go, my God, it's beautiful. It's poetic.
When did you realize that, I mean, obviously you had done writing before in your previous job, and when did you realize at some point that that was going to be something, did you always know you wanted to write a book, or did it sort of unfold?
So I didn't write so much in, like, when I was in health and wellness. Like, I always loved to write. I'd, like, journal and do a little bit of writing in that job, but I would, like, love, it's so cheesy, but, like, editing my resume. Like, I just, like, loved, like, wordsmithing and writing. So I always did love writing, but I never thought to do anything with it necessarily. But, yeah, while Mike was sick, it was yes, I would get so many text messages, and I just like didn't have the capacity to like respond to everybody. And I know so many people wanted to know how he was doing. So it was a little bit of like, maybe if I put this out there, like it will like
take some of the pressure off
to respond to people. Cause I mean, when you're in that situation, like you're in survival mode, I don't
and
have
be an
time.
outlet for you too.
But it turned into
cathartic,
and so much so, like it was so therapeutic for me. And then I didn't know that
how good it was.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't until I got a lot of feedback from it, because I was just like pouring my heart out, because it's like you just don't know what it's like to be in that situation until you do. You don't know what the day-to-day is. Like you until you live it, you just have no idea. So I felt like it took a little bit of the isolation away to like open up my world to people and let them know some, like a small bit of their realities of like caregiving with 2 young kids and cancer and like what my life was consumed with.
Right.
Did you find that strangers would read it, or somebody would share it with someone, and you would find a community of people who had gone through it and did understand what you were going through a little bit better than somebody who hadn't gone through it?
Yeah, I had connected with a lot of people through the blog and through Instagram. But people would reach out to me all the time and say like, like the way you said this is like exactly how I'm feeling. Like this whole concept, especially of anticipatory grief, where you start grieving like long before someone dies in terminal illness. Like it's like what you feel and what you know, but you just can't understand it. Like I said, until you live it. And so there were certain things that I would talk about that people were like, yeah, like that. Like that's it. So even just connecting with people was so helpful for me. I mean, at some point, like Mike and I weren't really communicating anymore. Like he really wasn't cognitively there. He wasn't having conversation. And so I'm like, I had my kids and my family, but like, like connecting with those people was so therapeutic. Yeah. But I also just loved it. I just like came to love writing. And I did always have an idea about writing a book, but I didn't know, like when I was in health and wellness, I was like, oh, maybe something in that, but I was never really motivated or like super inspired enough to do anything with it. And then after these blog posts, the Breathing Room Foundation, who I talked about, who did the Christmas in July,
We'll tag them in the
Okay.
in the post too.
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely.
So after Mike passed, they reached out to me because I'd, again, become friendly with them. And they asked me to write their appeal letter that year. So I wrote a letter telling our story. And it went out to like thousands and thousands of families. And they raised so much money from it. And they loved the letter and got a lot of feedback on the letter. And I was like, wait, I can, like, maybe I can do something with this. Like, this, like, it was a little bit of like a eye-opening experience. Like, I have something here.
People didn't stop wondering how you and the boys were after Mike had passed. So you continued blogging here and there afterwards to keep us informed of how everybody was doing, because, you know, as worried as everyone was about Mike, everybody was worried about you and the boys too. And that continued long after. And so you continued to blog. And then how did it turn into something more formal?
Yeah, so I'd continue to blog. People got really, some people were really invested in this and my kids. And I mean, also we just had such a community. Like we went to Haverhurst from high school. We grew up together. Like people in the community knew Mike. So anyway, I'd continue to blog just because I loved it. And it was an outlet for me and an ability to connect with people. So I'd continue to blog. I did this appeal letter. And then at some point I was like, I just felt so compelled to write. This idea of writing a book came back to me. And actually, it came back to me before that because I had told Mike about this. And he knew how much blogging was doing for me. And I told him I wanted to write a book. And he told me, he encouraged me to do it, knowing that he wasn't going to be here to read it or hold it. Yeah. He told me, like, you're going to help people. Like, you know, so in the back of my mind, how much I loved blogging. And this thought and this conversation with him, I was like, I got to do this. Yeah. So I had a friend who went through another tragic experience, and she wrote a book, and I connected with her, and we became very close. And
she has 2 boys, too.
She has 2 young boys.
Similar situation. Yeah, I follow her.
And I got encouragement from her and her resources from her, and I was like, I'm just going to do this. Like, I'm going to jump in because, one, I have a terrible memory, and I'm like, if I don't do this now, I won't be able to recall it the same way, like the details.
Especially post-trauma.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And you had all those blogs. It was like almost like you were writing the manuscript like as it was happening. Yeah. So
throughout my book, I do include blogs. Throughout it, it'll be like, this is like a real-time journal entry from that moment.
Yeah. And we'll be able to get a copy in May, right? It's releasing in May?
Yep.
Do you have a date?
May 7th on Amazon.
May 7th. We'll share the link.
Okay.
We'll reshare. We'll share this long before that, but we'll share the link. So come back to, our Facebook page. It'll be on there.
Yeah, the ebook will come out a week before.
Okay.
And then the actual physical book will come out May 7th on Amazon. So through all of that, the encouragement from Mike, the encouragement through Whitney, and just mine, like, I'm like, this is the time. So I just started writing it, and it's been about a year probably since I started writing it. They told me it would probably be about a year, and I'm self-publishing, but I'm sort of someone's sort of guiding me and doing the self-publishing work for me, but I'm doing it is self-published. Will be self-published. So
it's so brave. Yeah. It is. I understand that it was therapeutic for you, and I understand all of that. But at the same time, you're really laying your life out there and your experience out there for other people, and it's going to help other people. But I'm sure there was probably a moment at least of trepidation of,
do I really want to do this, or am I okay sharing all of this with complete strangers?
Yeah.
It's very intimate. And as I've read through it so many times, there are certain pieces that I was unsure about, or that I took out, or maybe changed the wording, because I talked a lot about my kids, but then I felt in the book it wasn't necessarily my place to talk about their grief. Yeah. So there was some things I took out about them, and just talked from my perspective. But I felt so excited and confident, and I am, but lately, now that we're getting close, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, people are going to read all these words. Yeah. And I'm like, I hope it serves its purpose. Like, I hope that, all these
one
thoughts.
Person,
yes,
then you served its purpose.
And although I want to help as many people as I can, I also feel that I'm documenting an experience from my life and for my kids.
It's an homage.
Yeah, they're young.
Right.
They're still young, yeah.
It's a story of grief, but it's a love story.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. they say,
and I mean, we don't even probably have enough time to actually talk about what you're feeling as a mother trying to manage their grief, and not just children's grief, but toddlers.
Yeah.
I mean, with the inability to express some of it. That's a whole, I'm sure we can just do a part 2 just on that.
yeah.
Or maybe I'll write another book about that.
Well, you know what? Maybe, because ultimately I'm sure that is an entire other community of people who don't know where to begin or how to voice it, and maybe you can be their voice. But in the meantime, please continue telling us about the book and what we can expect. And
so in the book I talk about, so in the back of the book it does say, like, this is a story of, like, resilience and healing, but it's also, like, at its core, it's a love story, because we had been dating, again, since 8th grade. So I talk about our love story, how we met, how our life progressed, having kids, having a family, like, moving and all of that. But then I go into, caregiving and the details of some of that, along with steps that I've taken to heal.
So after as well. Yeah. Wasn't sure where, like, the timeline of the book, obviously
It's like the
anxious
whole
to read
thing.
it,
It's like from the start in 8th grade to my life after loss. It's sort of all of it in my grief journey, and lessons that I've learned during it, myths about grief. So I talk about a lot of all of that.
will you be doing any, I hesitate to call it a book tour, but will you be going to any bookstores and
promoting it at all?
Yeah. I mean, anything like that?
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so. Yes, I think it's going to take a little bit of time, but I'm working on all of that to get it out there.
If there's anybody out there who can help us out or give us a venue or maybe just some direction on how we could help that happen, because what I imagine, and I don't know a lot about writing books or publishing books, but having an environment where you talk a little bit about the book or read an excerpt from the book and have almost a town forum where people can come and talk to you about the book or ask questions and things like that. Can you envision something like that happening?
I would love that.
Yeah.
I would love that. We are having a book launch party on May 9th. Should I say that?
Yeah,
Please do.
On May 9th in Ambler at Forest and Main Brewery. So not the pub, but they have a production center. So from 5 to 9, and it's sort of like an open house. Come in, grab a drink. They're donating a portion of proceeds as well as proceeds from the book to Small Moments.
Oh, please tell us about that.
So, so I was working part-time since my first son was born, actually. So I was still working part-time while Mike was sick. But after he passed, I was like, I need something different. So I had left that job and then started working on the appeal letter. And then I started working with a couple of our friends to plan a golf outing last year in Mike's memory, which is for Mike, but also, again, my hope is that it's something that the boys can feel connected to him through. Right. So through the golf outing, we were raising money that year for the boys. But as we were doing that, and as I've worked with the breathing room, and I felt compelled to do something more, and like this was going to become an annual thing, and I'm like, well, what should we be raising money for? And after Mike died, and while he was on hospice, people would gift us experiences, tickets to things. We went to Legoland. We went to the Crayola factory. Just little outings. That after he died, it's hard to want to go do these like happy things, but they did get us out of the house. And it was like a realization when we were there having these experiences that we could still like have a good life, be happy, smile, and that was okay. Like, that's what he would want.
Yeah.
And then we'd go home, and it was still, and then I'd grieve, and it was sad, but it was like a little bit of a break. And so I think it was also really good for my kids to have like normal experiences when like at home life didn't seem normal. So anyway, with as I was thinking about how helpful that was to us, I created this nonprofit called the Small Moments Foundation, the Michael L. Ditore Small Moments Foundation. And we create small moments of joy for children who've lost a parent or sibling to cancer. So we launched on the anniversary of his death last year, officially opening up to nominations. And I had no idea what to expect.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, maybe we'll help 1 or 2 people this year. But we've received about 6 or 7 nominations since September. We are working on 2 of them right now, but we've supported, about 5 families so far. So we basically connect with the family, who are often referred to us through either another nonprofit that might support them during illness,
Right.
Or friends, whoever. And they nominate a family, and we connect with them and get a feel for what the kids like, what would bring them joy, what are their interests, and then together talk through an experience. So we've sent a family to see Wicked
Okay.
in the fall, who, like, the mother would go with the father who passed to see it, and the kids have always wanted to do that, and it was like something that the parents had done, and so it was like a special memory for them to be able to go see it, and it was like a moment of joy. And those moments are like what help you keep going.
Yeah. So it is so you're helping families who they've already lost someone.
They've already lost someone, a children who've lost a parent or sibling to cancer.
Got it.
So right now my goal is growing that, reaching more families, and we're doing a golf outing again this year, and it'll be 4 small moments. The book launch will be 4 small, we'll raise money for small moments.
When is the golf outing?
The golf outing is September 16th.
Great.
Okay.
And we'll link that as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So registration will open on May 1st for teams to sign up.
Nice.
We're
Where are you having it? Same place?
5 Ponds again,
Okay.
and sponsorships will open April 1st. So
Okay.
Fantastic. We'll link all of that. If you want to, if you have a foursome and you want to play, that would be great. If you want to make a donation, we'll have the links.
okay,
Yeah.
great, thank you.
What would you like to share as a final sort of thought, as obviously all of us anticipate the launch of the book? I'm sure we're all going to get the book, and if there's anything that comes up that we can attend, we will, and we will share that. What's something that you would like anyone watching this to be left with, in summary, of your experience or their life or how it relates to their life, even if they didn't experience this type of loss?
So when Mike was diagnosed, like, I was in such a dark place. Again, I would get up, I'd get my kids dressed, I'd do what I needed to do. Like, we had fun times, but it was hard. Like, I was in survival mode. I didn't see a light at the end of this. I only saw that, okay, he's going to die, and like, then I have no idea what I'm going to do. But like, it does get more manageable. There are times now that I'll unexpectedly be hit by a wave of grief. Oh, sorry, I shouldn't have done that. But, okay.
No, you're good.
Hit by a wave of grief. Like, it's like, I was telling you earlier, I had a baby shower. I was at Mike's college roommate's baby shower, and they were talking about how he's researching baby products, and I'm like, it just hit me, because I'm like, if Mike was here, he'd be talking to him about all of this.
Right.
And then there's a little bit of grief, like, with my family not looking necessarily how I thought it would look with us having another child. So anyway, I let it hit me when it hits me, and if it hits me at a baby shower, I leave.
Yeah.
And if it hits me when I'm wherever, like, I just let it, I roll with it.
Right.
And then there's times where I can have an entire conversation, and it's not necessarily hitting me, but there are times that it does really hard, and it is still hard, but like, it has become more manageable, and it does become more manageable. But if you had asked me that in 2021, when we were trying to get out of that contract, I wouldn't have been able to say that. I didn't know that. I didn't see any positive future at that point. I saw me just struggling, going through the motions for the rest of my life, just as I grieve.
Right. In those depths, you've grown and, flourished to something, and you're going to be able to help so many.
I think the interesting thing, and something you just said, is relatable beyond loss, beyond cancer, is that your family doesn't look like you thought it was going to. And when I got divorced, a friend of mine had given me a sign. I talk about this a lot. She gave me a sign, and I can't quote it word for word, but I read it every day going down the stairs. And it basically said, in order to have the life that you're meant to have, you have to give up the idea of what was supposed to be. And so there's a grieving of not even just the person, even in a divorce, not even in a death, there's a grieving of the life that you saw. And then to be able to have another life after this, to not to diminish the life that you had before, but you found love again. And that's amazing.
Yeah, and to not forget the life that you did have.
Right. I mean, to be able to have those things simultaneously, to have a partner who allows you to have Mike's presence fully is really amazing. And again, I think that's a testament to you and to your heart and of course to Matthew, because you're able to have those things exist. And I'm sure that that's not something you ever pictured, to say the least. Yeah.
No. And I didn't know what that looked like. Like, dating anyone, I'm like, I'm 30. Well, I'm 30. I think I'm 32 now.
You're like, I don't know.
But at the time, I'm like, I have 2
30s.
kids. Like, I'm a widow. Like, so no, I had no idea. And it's really hard. And it would have been, it's hard for me to have imagined someone who didn't also go through the loss of a spouse to be so accepting.
Yeah.
But as you guys know, I moved to Collegeville. We are blending families.
Yep.
And
Which is a thing, which is a whole thing.
it's a whole thing, and it's not easy.
Nope.
But
That's
we
a
have
whole
pictures
nother
of Mike.
podcast.
Like, yeah, right. We have like a Google Photos. Like, we have pictures of Mike popping up all the time. We have pictures of Mike on. So like it's I'm in this constant like trying to figure out how to balance both, how to honor Mike and my past, because not only for me, but again, my children's father. Like, they need. Like, I want him to always be very present in their life. Mm-hmm. So it's a balance between figuring out how to like be present, honor my current life, honor my past life.
Right.
And that's relatable to a lot of people, a whole community that I think you probably haven't even thought of, because it doesn't just require death for someone to have a life that's different than what they pictured.
Mm-hmm. Matthew, I'm not going to go into his story, but he's divorced. We've had conversations about how there's a lot of grief in that too. Like, you again, it's not the same, but your life that you imagined is not
what it is.
Not what it is anymore.
Right.
And it's ripped away.
Yeah.
And so you're forced to rebuild a life that you didn't necessarily choose. Like, I didn't choose this, but you're forced to rebuild it. And I love my life now. I'm happy. My kids are so happy. Like, Matthew's going away for work next week, and Dante is so upset about it. Like, he's like really like loves having him.
Yeah.
Right.
He adores him. They both adore him. They have a great relationship, and
I can see that.
so like, life is good right now, but it doesn't take away from like the pain, because again, it pops up at any moment, like out to dinner with friends, and so it's like a constant balance of both. Like, you're feeling happiness, but you're also feeling pain. You're happy in your current life, but you're also longing for something or wondering what could have been.
Yeah. We were just in Las Vegas at Keller Williams Family Reunion, and one of the vendors, Homes.com, brought in Mel Robbins. You know that? Okay. Mm-hmm. And it so resembles something that she would talk about, don't you think? Mm-hmm. She would talk about the fact that you've done a really amazing job of honoring and expressing both your happiness and your grief. And that is not something a lot of people do on social media. No. You really see a lot of joy and a lot of highlights, which is great, but you don't get a lot of people who are, again, brave enough to share the rawness of the pain, of the grief, of the and so in such a way that you look forward to reading it in a way. I mean, no one wants you to feel the pain. But the fact that you're brave enough and willing to share the pain really is unique and rare. Yeah.
I mean, there was a time where I felt hesitant to share any happiness because I felt like it took away from the grief, or maybe people would think that how did she get over it? Or but as I go through the well, who cares? But as you go through the process and you're grieving, like, you realize, like, more so that you can experience so many different emotions at one time.
And no one will ever know. I mean, your friend, who also lost her husband and has I'm sure having somebody like that to walk with is probably amazing for you.
It is. I text her, and even other widows that I've met on Instagram, like, we'll text about, like, they have something like a dating question or anything that comes up.
Kids. Yeah. But I think one of the videos that you posted of you dancing at a wedding in a red dress, an amazing red dress, is one of those things that is a visualization. It's an illustration of life post-loss.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
And
you know
you
what?
can be happy.
Maybe we'll tag a little bit of that video.
Yeah.
With your permission. Maybe
Of course.
We'll
It's
tag a
out
little
there
bit of
anyway.
it. Yeah, it is.
Share
That's a perfect way to wrap this up. And of course we're we're
keep
here
dancing.
for all of it. Yeah, keep dancing. It's a good way.
Thank you so much.
We look forward to the book.
Yeah, I'm so excited. Thank you.
Rebecca, thanks so much for being here. We are going to tag all of that. We are going to tag the foundation. We're going to tag where the fundraiser is going to be, where the golf outing is going to be. We're going to tag the breathing room. We're going to give you links as soon as you can order the book. And if you have any questions at all, we're going to tag your Instagram and you can ask Rebecca directly. Jeff, thank you so much for introducing us in the first place. And keep posting pictures of those cute boys.
Yeah.
Oh, man. All right.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you.